Iftar, hello, welcome to another assembly. Thank you very much for joining. What an incredibly busy week it's been, and an incredibly busy few weeks around the world. You may well have been following the US election on the news. I hope you have, because it's a really interesting and very exciting time. Regardless of your political thoughts, if you have any, it's an amazing time to watch democracy at work. Democracy is an incredibly powerful thing, and I encourage you all, if you possibly can, to turn on the news or to go on the internet with a grown-up and find out a little bit about what's happening in the US at the moment. Democracy at work is very powerful to watch. I would also like to share with you today another very incredible story. I'm going to show you a part of a very incredible story about a man many of you will have heard of, many of you will have seen pictures or videos of before. He's Nelson Mandela. Now, this is an abridged version of his autobiography. He wrote an autobiography, which is a book about himself, and that was called The Long Walk to Freedom. This is a shortened version, an abridged version, but the really important parts of his life are all here. And it's a really stunning book. It's illustrated in a really beautiful way, but it tells a very powerful story of Nelson Mandela's life. So I thought we could share, across the next couple of weeks probably, some of the main parts of Nelson Mandela's life. I hope you enjoy it. Bear with me. My name is Nelson Mandela. I live in South Africa, a beautiful country on the tip of Africa. Today, South Africa is a democracy. That means all adults vote to choose who they want to run the country. But it was not always like this. When I was born, South Africa was ruled by white people only. As I grew older, I began to see that this was not fair. I wanted to change this way of government so everyone had a say. My friends and I called this the struggle for freedom. The struggle lasted many years, and I was one of the fighters. This is my story. Long, long ago, the white Europeans crossed the seas to South Africa. They fought over the land, and they also fought the tribes of people already living there, such as the Xhosas, the Zulus, and the Tswanas. Hundreds of years later, I was born into the Tembu tribe, one of the many tribes that made up the Xhosa nation. I entered the world in the tiny village of Mvezo in the beautiful Eastern Cape on the 18th of July 1918. So that's 102 years ago. My father was a Tembu chief, a leader of our people. He named me Rodi Lala, which means, in Xhosa, troublemaker. Did he believe I would grow up to be a troublemaker? I don't think so. Nobody knew what lay ahead for me. When I was a young boy, we moved from the Mvezo to the nearby village of Kunu, and I began herding our family's sheep and goats. Those were happy days. My friends and I swam in the rivers, stole honey from beehives, and played stick fighting, a Xhosa boy's favourite sport. When I turned 7, my father decided to send me to school. It was a mission school built by Europeans who had come to South Africa to spread Christianity. No one in my family had been to school before. I didn't have fancy clothes, but my father took a pair of his old trousers and cut them off at the knee. I used a piece of string as a belt. But the school wasn't fancy either. It had only one classroom. None of the pupils wore smart clothes, so I fitted right in. Our teacher gave us new names. Mine was Nelson. Nelson. At that time, the English ruled our country, so our teacher thought we should all have English names. It sounded very strange at first, but I soon got used to it. My father taught me to be a brave Xhosa boy. I wanted to grow up to be just like him. Sometimes I even rubbed ash onto my hair to make it grey like his. I was learning at school, but I was learning at home as well. My mother told me stories from long ago, full of wise lessons about being kind to others. But after my 9th birthday, my life changed. My father grew ill and died. My mother took me to live with my father's friend, Chief Jongin Daba, in the nearby village of, now you're going to have to excuse me here, Mehekesweni, but I might well have said that wrong. Mehekesweni. Uncle Jongi was the acting king of the Tembus and was a very important man. He had a motor car and lived in a big house called the Great Place. It was an exciting new experience for me. My mother still came to visit me, I was always very happy to see her. So it's a very, very big change in his life. Although I missed Kunu, I loved my new life. Uncle Jongi's son, Justice, was a few years older than me, and we became best friends. We rode horses and ploughed his father's fields together. We had a lot of fun. But life was not all about riding horses. When I was 16, Uncle Jongi sent me to Clerkenbury boarding school. In those days, many boys and girls did not finish their schooling, but my uncle believed education was important. In fact, there's a picture down here with a picture of Nelson Mandela and a very famous quote from him, and he says, "Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world." 3 years later, I joined Justice at Healdtown, the biggest school for Africans in the country. This is where I completed my high school education. At the age of 21, I enrolled at Fort Hare, a university for black students in the Eastern Cape. Uncle Jongi bought me a new suit to wear. It was very different from the cut-down trousers I'd worn when I went to school. I felt very grown up. Young black people from all over the country came to study at Fort Hare. It was the first time I had met other people from other tribes, such as Sothos, Zulus, and Swanas. I made new friends, including a clever young student called Oliver Tambo. Although we didn't know it then, Oliver and I were to become very important in each other's lives. I worked hard at university, but I had fun. I took up running, boxing, and ballroom dancing. One night, my friends and I snuck out to a dance hall. We thought we were very daring, until we met our teacher. But suddenly, my student days were cut short. I was elected to sit on the student council, but only 25 students had voted. Most did not vote because the council could not change the thing that concerned them the most: the bad canteen food. I told the principal that I would not sit on the council without the students' support. He was very angry and threatened to expel me, but I wouldn't change my mind. I never went back to university. Was I living up to my name of troublemaker? Back at the Great Place, Uncle Jongi soon had other plans for me and Justice. He told us we were to be married, and he had already picked a wife for each of us. We were shocked. We didn't want to get married, and so we decided to run away to Johannesburg. Johannesburg was only 700 kilometres away. It was known to all Xhosa people as Igoli, the place of gold. There we would find jobs and make new lives. It was an adventure, and we set off full of hope and excitement for the future. Forwards towards the twinkling lights of the big city. The city was bigger than we could ever have imagined. Everywhere we looked, there were people, shops and cars, but those smart shops and expensive cars belonged to the white people. Most black people were poor. I went to live in Alexandra Township, just outside the city, where the tiny houses had no electricity or running water, and the roads were just dusty paths. Life was hard in Alexandra, but it became home to me. Justice stayed in Johannesburg for a while, but after a few years, Uncle Jongi died and justice returned to the Eastern Cape to take over as chief. At the Zezulus, I also met my old friend Oliver Tambo again. We were both studying law, and in 1952 we set up the first black law firm in South Africa. I'm going to leave it there, because next week I'd like to tell you about how Nelson's story continues. But for this week, I wonder if you might find out some interesting facts about Nelson Mandela at home. Thank you very, very much for joining. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. I've got no idea what the weather will bring, but I'm sure you'll get outside and enjoy yourselves if you possibly can. All right. Now, it is still lockdown, so some of those lockdown rules still do apply, as you know, and we are here to help you. All right, we're here to help if you're worried, we're here to help if you need anything, and we are here to help if you've got any questions at all. So please ask us, please don't worry in silence, and please look after one another as well. All right, thank you everyone, have a lovely weekend, see you soon, bye bye.